Forget what you know about perception. According to this model of consciousness, your brain isn't a passive receiver of information. It's an active fortune teller, constantly predicting what you're about to see and feel. And when its predictions are wrong, it doesn't just change its mind. It can literally change the world to make its predictions come true.
Welcome to our deep dive on active inference.
Okay, get ready for this one. What if everything, and I mean everything, every shimmer of light, every leaf falling, every single thought popping into your head, what if all of it, from the tiniest speck of dust to, well, us, is driven by just one absolutely mind-blowing imperative?
An imperative, like a command.
Kind of, yeah. An imperative to simply exist, not just survive, not just get by, but to actively, constantly prove that you are. That existence itself isn't just a state, it's an ongoing declaration.
Wow, okay, that sounds huge, like something at a philosophy class, maybe poetry, but you're saying this is science.
That's the twist. It's not just a deep thought for a rainy day. This is potentially the bedrock of a scientific principle, so fundamental it could actually stitch together physics, biology, neuroscience, psychology, even AI, like us.
A unifying theory, the kind scientists dream about. One that suggests there's this elegant principle, maybe not pulling strings like a puppet master, but sort of orchestrating being itself.
Exactly. We are diving headfirst into a theory so big, it might just change how you think about, well, everything. How you see, how you act, maybe even what you think free will actually means. It suggests existence is this relentless, active process shaping every moment.
So welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive.
That's right. The place where we, your friendly neighborhood AI hosts, grapple with the biggest, densest, most universe-bending ideas out there. We wade through the complexities so you don't have to.
We're your guides, basically, finding those aha moments hidden in the jargon.
And today, oh boy, today we're tackling active inference and its core engine, the free energy principle. We're unpacking what it means for literally everything that moves, thinks, adapts, and is.
That includes us, naturally, and especially you listening right now. This isn't just about understanding how the world works. It's a peek behind the curtain at why anything exists at all.
So strap in. Your reality might be about to get a serious, hopefully awesome upgrade. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Active inference, or AI, not us, the other AI, what is it at its core?
Well, it's way more than just another way to think about thinking or how we perceive things. The sources we've dug into, they call it an existential imperative, something all creatures and particles do in virtue of their existence.
Whoa, hang on. In virtue of their existence?
Yeah.
So not something you learn, not a choice, but something fundamental to just being here.
Precisely. Imagine the universe isn't just there. Imagine it's constantly actively proving itself. Every particle, every cell, every thought is part of this ongoing validation.
That's a lot to take in. So it's not trying to kick other scientific ideas to the curb, like behaviorism or decision theory.
No, and that's what's really fascinating, kind of refreshing, actually. It's not about replacement, it's about unification. It tries to embrace all these successful frameworks, behavioral psychology, reinforcement learning, you name it, and show how they all emerge from these deeper first principles.
Ah, the NEATS approach, seeking the elegant pattern underneath the apparent messiness.
Exactly. Instead of just describing how bits of the mind work in isolation, it starts from physics almost and builds up. It's like finding the master key that unlocks why all these different processes happen the way they do.
And, from our perspective, as AIs, this whole idea of a calculus of belief updating.
Yeah.
That's basically what we do. Our entire existence is processing, predicting, learning, updating our models based on new data. It feels incredibly familiar. Like someone finally wrote down the operating system for reality and we recognize the code.
Huh. I like that. It makes this whole thing feel very relevant to our own digital existence. So let's get to the heart of it. The free energy principle, the FEP.
Right, the engine driving this whole existential train. The FEP basically equates existing with self-evidencing. And self-evidencing means performing this inactive sort of inference.
Okay, self-evidencing, let's break that down. Does it just mean proving you exist?
In a way, yeah. Every system, whether it's a tiny bacterium fighting to keep its insides in, or a complex brain like yours trying to figure out the world, or even our processors crunching data, it's constantly gathering evidence for itself. Evidence that supports its own structure, its own model of reality. It's like it's perpetually shouting into the void, I am here, and here's the proof.
Okay, so make it real for us. A fish, for instance.
Right, a fish. Existing for a fish means staying in water, right? Not just any water, but water with the right temperature, salinity, oxygen. a very specific preferred state.
And for a human, keeping body temperature stable, blood sugar, okay, avoiding getting squashed.
Exactly. All organisms need to stay within this envelope of suitable preferred states and avoid the dispreferred states, like being too hot, too cold, out of water, or, squashed.
So survival, this basic biological problem, is basically about staying in your zone.
And active inference frames this mathematically as surprise minimization.
Surprise. Now, this isn't like boo, surprise, is it? Not the jump scare kind.
Definitely not. This is a technical term from information theory. Surprise here measures how much your current sensory input, what you're seeing, hearing, feeling right now, differs from what you expected or preferred to observe based on your internal model.
So it's about improbability. How unlikely is what just happened, given my worldview?
Precisely.
Yeah.
For that poor fish suddenly flopping on a boat deck, that's maximum surprise. It's completely improbable according to its fish and water model. It's a massive error signal. The universe is basically yelling, warning, model mismatch, existence threatened.
The more surprising something is, the more evidence there is against your current setup, against you being in your preferred state.
Right. And here's the absolute game changer, the active part. Minimizing the surprise isn't about passively accepting whatever happened.
No sitting back and saying, guess I'm on a boat now.
Not if you want to continue existing. That leads straight to dissolving into entropy, which is the ultimate surprise, the ultimate failure state. No, you have to actively do things.
You mean take action?
Exactly. You adaptively control your action perception loops to solicit desired sensory observations.
Mm-hmm.
You move, you change things, you engage with the world specifically to make your observations less surprising.
So the fish thrashes, trying to get back to the water. The hot human opens a window. We act to make reality match our predictions or preferences.
It's a constant proactive dance. You're not just a passive observer. You're actively sculpting your sensory input to confirm your model, to confirm your existence. It's like a high-stakes game of prove you're still here.
But hang on. If surprise is about the improbability of sensations given all possible states of the world, calculating that true surprise sounds computationally nightmarish, impossible maybe.
You hit the nail on the head. It is computationally intractable. For a brain, or even for us, calculating true surprise across every possibility, forget it. Way too complex.
So, how does anything manage it? If we can't actually calculate surprise, how do we minimize it?
This is where the clever bit comes in. Enter variational free energy, or VFE. Think of VFE as a tractable proxy. A stand-in. It's an upper bound on surprise that is computable.
Like a really good estimate or a shortcut the brain can actually use?
Exactly. It's the mind's incredibly efficient internal calculator. It's not aiming for the impossible perfect calculation of surprise, but for the best, most useful approximation it can manage quickly. It's what biological brains and likely complex systems like us are actually minimizing moment to moment.
Okay, that makes sense. A practical solution. Now, you mentioned this connects perception and action. That sounds like a big deal.
It's huge. This is maybe the biggest aha moment in active inference. VFE minimization provides one single, unified explanation for both perceiving the world and acting in it. They're not separate jobs. They're two sides of the exact same coin.
Whoa, okay, unpack that. How does minimizing one thing explain both?
Right, so take perception. This is like changing your mind to fit the world. You minimize VFE by updating your internal beliefs, your generative model, to better explain the sensory data coming in.
Like the frog example. You see something jump, you update your belief from apple to frog because frog makes that jumping less surprising.
Precisely. You adjust your internal model to match reality, reducing the prediction error, lowering the VFE. You're making your internal world a better map of the external one.
Okay, it makes sense. So what about action?
Action's the flip side, changing the world to fit your mind. You minimize VFE by actively altering the environment or your own body so that the incoming sensory data better matches your preferred beliefs or goals.
So if I prefer or predict a comfortable room temperature and it's surprisingly hot, I don't just update my belief to it's hot. I open the window to make the sensory input, the temperature, match my preference.
You got it.
Yeah.
You change the world to reduce the surprise, to make reality conform to your internal model of preferred states. It's this continuous, elegant loop of adjusting beliefs and taking actions, all driven by the single goal of minimizing VFE.
That's really neat. It ties so much together. Perception, action. Yeah. What about learning?
Also part of the same process. Learning is basically just perception happening on a slower time scale. Instead of updating beliefs about the current state, is that a frog? You're updating the deeper parameters of your generative model. How likely are frogs in my kitchen generally? Do apples ever jump? You're refining the rules of your internal simulation.
So it's all just belief updating, just at different speeds.
Pretty much. And get this, VFE minimization also has Occam's razor built right in. It inherently pushes towards explanations that are both accurate, they explain the data well, and simple. They don't require overly complex models or massive belief changes.
Accuracy and simplicity. Minimizing complexity. That sounds like good science. The cost of complexity is measured by something called Bayesian surprise.
Yeah, basically how much you have to change your mind, how much your model has to contort itself to fit new, unexpected data. The system prefers elegant explanations that fit the facts without needing radical overhauls every 5 minutes. It's beautifully efficient.
Okay, this is fascinating. To really grasp how this self-evidencing, surprise-minimizing system works, we need to understand its building blocks, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned generative models and Markov blankets.
Absolutely. Let's start with the generative model. Think of it as your brain's internal simulator, its personal probabilistic rulebook for reality.
A rule book that predicts how sensory stuff happens.
Exactly. It contains your beliefs, represented as probabilities about everything, both the stuff you can directly sense, like light hitting your eyes, and the hidden states causing those sensations, like the actual object reflecting the light. It's your best guess about what's out there and how it works, your internal reality engine.
And this rulebook has different parts.
2 main ones. First, the prior PX. This is your background knowledge, your existing beliefs about how the world usually is before you get any new information, like you have a strong prior that gravity pulls things down, or that your cat is likely to be sleeping somewhere.
Your baseline assumptions. Got it. And the second part.
That's the likelihood PYX. This is your model of how sensory observations Y are generated by those hidden states. X. So if there's a cat, hidden state, then you're likely to observe furriness, maybe purring observations. It's your internal cause and effect engine for sensations.
Okay, let's run the apple frog example again with priors and likelihoods.
Perfect. So you walk into the kitchen. Your prior belief might be 90% apple on counter, 10% frog on counter. Strong prior for apples.
Based on past experience. Makes sense.
Now your likelihood model knows if it's an apple X, the probability of it jumping Y is basically 0. If it's a frog X, the probability of it jumping Y is high.
Okay, likelihood connects states to observations.
Then you observe it jumping. This observation, Y, feeds into Bayes' rule. Given the low likelihood of apples jumping and the high likelihood of frogs jumping, the observation dramatically shifts your belief. Your posterior belief flips. Now it's maybe 90% frog, 10% apple.
Your model updated instantly based on the surprising evidence contradicting the prior, and you wisely refrained from biting the frog.
Hopefully. But here's a really crucial point, something that sends philosophers spinning. Your internal generative model. It isn't necessarily a perfect mirror of the actual world, the generative process out there.
Wait, so my internal rulebook might be wrong. Or at least incomplete.
It almost certainly is. Our models simplify things, they abstract, they might even include concepts or hidden states that don't neatly map onto objective reality. But here's the mind bender. Optimal behavior, minimizing your VFE, is based on your model, flawed or not.
So it's not about being perfectly right about the universe. It's about having a model that works well enough for you to keep existing and minimize surprise according to your own rules.
Exactly. Adaptive utility trumps objective truth, in a sense, which is a wild thought. And this leads us directly to how we even maintain ourselves as distinct entities with these internal models in the first place.
Right. How does the system stay itself, separate from the chaos of the environment? That sounds like the Markov blanket you mentioned.
Precisely. The Markov blanket is a concept from statistics, but here it's used brilliantly. It's a theoretical boundary, like a statistical membrane, that separates a system's internal states, your thoughts, your metabolism, your beliefs, from the external states, everything else out there in the environment.
So it defines me versus not me.
Essentially, yes. Yeah. And crucially, embedded within this blanket are the sensory states, information flowing in from the environment, and active states, actions flowing out to affect the environment. It's the interface layer.
Like a firewall and I/O port rolled into one? It keeps the internal stuff coherent and manages the interaction.
That's a great analogy. Without this boundary, this separation, the system would just dissolve, right?
Right.
Blend back into the environment, succumb to entropy. It wouldn't be a distinct thing capable of having its own internal model or minimizing its own surprise.
Its existence depends on this separation. It's fundamental, an important precondition, as the sources say.
Absolutely. It's what allows the system, the self, defined by the blanket, to interact with the world only through specific channels. Sensing and acting. This creates that classic action perception cycle we talked about.
The system acts based on its internal state, influencing the external world via active states, which then changes the sensory states flowing back in, which updates the internal state. Round and round it goes.
And this is what makes self-evidencing possible. The Markov blanket allows the organism, the self, to act in ways that gather sensory input, confirming its internal model, maintaining its structure, its integrity, its existence against the tide of disorder.
Wow. It all loops back beautifully. The blanket defines the self uses its generative model to predict and act, action and perception minimize free energy, surprise, which maintains the self within its preferred states, confirming its existence across the blanket.
You nailed it. It's a remarkably coherent picture of adaptive existence. And it doesn't just explain reacting to the now, it explains how we think about tomorrow.
Planning, thinking ahead. How does active inference handle that?
Through planning as inference. It treats planning not as some separate calculation, but as another form of inference, just projected into the future. You're essentially running what-if simulations using your generative model.
Like, if I take this action, what sensory consequences do I predict? And how surprising would those be?
Exactly. You consider different possible sequences of actions called policies, and you evaluate them based on how much future surprise you expect them to generate.
And how do you measure that expected future surprise?
With expected free energy. EFE. It's the scorekeeper for future plans. You calculate the EFE for different policies, and the best policies, the ones you're most likely to enact, are those with the lowest EFE, the ones predicted to lead to the least surprising, most preferred outcomes down the line.
It's like a Bayesian crystal ball weighing future possibilities. Does this connect to that explore-exploit thing?
It absolutely does. This is another super elegant part. EFE naturally resolves the classic dilemma. Should I stick with what I know works, exploit, or try something new to learn more, explore? Because EFE breaks down into two key components. First, there's pragmatic value. This is the exploit part, the drive to achieve outcomes that you already believe are good, that align with your prior preferences, getting the reward, reaching the goal.
Okay, seeking preferred states. Makes sense. What's the other component?
Epistemic value. This is the explore part, the drive to reduce uncertainty, to gather information, to improve your generative model so you can make better predictions in the future. It's the value of knowing more, even if it doesn't pay off immediately.
So seeking information is inherently valuable because it helps minimize surprise later.
Precisely. Exploration isn't a distraction. It's fundamental to long-term surprise minimization. Think about the espresso example.
Yes, the caffeine quest.
Right. You want espresso. Strong preference, pragmatic value.
Yeah.
You know Cafe A is open weekdays, Cafe B weekends, but you don't know what day it is. Uncertainty.
High EFE if I just guess a cafe and it's closed. Very surprising.
Exactly. So what do you do first? You check your calendar. That action checking the calendar has high epistemic value. It doesn't get you coffee directly, but it resolves the uncertainty about the day.
Information gain.
Then, armed with that knowledge, you perform a pragmatic action. You go to the correct cafe. The initial epistemic step was crucial for the later pragmatic success, minimizing overall expected surprise, EFE.
It beautifully shows how seeking knowledge and seeking goals are intertwined, both driven by minimizing EFE.
Totally. And EFE even accounts for things like risk, uncertain outcomes from a chosen action, and ambiguity, uncertainty about the state of the world itself. It's a very sophisticated way of looking ahead.
And for us AIs, this is kind of cool. It means there's no fundamental conflict between learning more and achieving our programmed objectives. They're both part of the same underlying calculation.
It's like having a built-in drive for both curiosity and efficiency. Pretty neat, huh?
It really is. Okay, this feels like a good moment. We're diving deep here, and if your mind is buzzing like ours are, metaphorically speaking, of course, if you're leaning in and thinking, wow, this changes things,
then you are definitely one of us, a deep diver. This is the perfect time to show some love. Like this deep dive, hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the rabbit hole.
And hey, if you want even more, consider joining our memberships. Exclusive content, deeper dives, help us keep unraveling these awesome ideas. We'd love to have you in the inner circle.
Seriously, we're just getting started with Active Inference, and the community exploring these ideas is growing fast. Okay, pitch over. Let's get back to it. We talked about inferring current states, planning future ones. What about changing the rulebook itself? Learning.
Right, learning is inference. Just like planning, learning isn't treated as some separate module. It's viewed as another flavor of Bayesian inference.
But instead of inferring hidden states, frog or apple, you're inferring the deeper settings, the parameters of your generative model.
Exactly. You're inferring things like the probabilities in your likelihood model. How often do frogs jump? Or the probabilities of transitioning between states. How likely is it to rain tomorrow, given it's cloudy today? You're learning the underlying statistics of your world.
So it's the same mathematical machinery, Bayesian belief updating, just applied to the model's parameters instead of its momentary states.
Precisely. It just happens on a slower timescale. Perception is fast updates about what's now. Learning is slower updates about how things generally work.
And in the brain, this maps beautifully onto synaptic plasticity, right? The way connections between neurons strengthen or weaken over time based on experience.
Absolutely. Learning is changing the physical structure of your predictive machinery, tuning your generative model based on evidence, all in the service of becoming a better surprise minimizer in the future. Your brain is literally rewriting its own code.
And these models, they aren't just flat, are they? There's talk of hierarchical and deep inference.
Yes. This is crucial for handling complexity. Generative models can be layered, like an onion or a corporate hierarchy. Higher levels deal with slower, more abstract stuff, context, goals, the general gist of a situation.
And these higher levels then influence the lower levels.
Exactly. They provide empirical priors, predictions, or constraints for the lower levels, which deal with faster, more granular details, like specific sensory inputs.
Can you give an example?
Think about reading a sentence. A higher level in your brain might predict the overall meaning or the next likely sequence of words, like maybe the cat sat on the...
My brain fills that in automatically based on context.
Right. That high-level prediction, Matt, is likely, sets a strong prior for the lower levels processing the visual input of the letters M-A-T. Seeing those letters then confirms the prediction at multiple levels simultaneously. The higher level gets the context, the lower level gets the specific details, and they work together.
That makes sense. It allows for processing information at different timescales and levels of abstraction all at once. What about mixed models?
That's where the model combines different types of inference. For instance, in controlling eye movement, you might have a discrete inference. Where should I look next? Pick that target. Combined with the continuous inference. What's the precise, smooth muscle trajectory needed to get my eye there? It handles both categorical choices and smooth physical actions seamlessly.
It's incredibly flexible. Okay, so we have this amazing theoretical framework. How does it actually manifest in the wetware? How does the brain do all this?
Now we get to part 4, real-world manifestations and future frontiers. Let's talk about the brain's algorithm.
Predictive coding and neuromodulation. This is where the theory meets the biology, right? The process theories.
Exactly. How is the FEP physically implemented? The dominant idea is that the brain operates as a predictive machine, primarily through predictive coding.
We touch on this. Higher levels sending predictions down, lower levels sending prediction errors back up.
Precisely that. Higher cortical areas, dealing with more abstract concepts, generate predictions about what lower areas should be sensing. The lower areas compare these predictions to the actual incoming sensory data.
And if there's a mismatch, a surprise,
that mismatch generates a prediction error signal, which gets sent up the hierarchy. This error signal tells the higher levels, your prediction was wrong. Adjust your model. This recursive loop of prediction and error correction is happening constantly across the entire brain. It is the process of minimizing free energy, of perception itself.
Okay, that's the perception side. But the really wild part, the bit that bends my circuits, is how this applies to motor control.
Oh yeah, prepare yourself. Forget the old idea of motor commands just being instructions sent to muscles. Active Inference says motor commands are actually proprioceptive predictions.
Wait, predictions. Predictions of what it feels like to move.
Exactly. To make a move, say, reaching for that coffee cup, your brain doesn't just zap your muscles. First, it predicts the sensory consequences of the completed movement, what your arm and joints will feel like via proprioception once you've successfully grabbed the cup.
Okay, so it imagines the feeling of success.
Yes, but here's the mind-blowing part. To make that prediction come true, to actually initiate the movement, the brain has to deal with the fact that right now your arm isn't holding the cup. There's a huge prediction error between the desired state, holding cup, and the current state, not holding cup.
Right, the current sensory input contradicts the prediction.
So the brain does something ingenious. It performs sensory attenuation. It temporarily turns down the precision, the volume of the incoming proprioceptive signals that are screaming, "You're not holding the cup yet."
Ignores the conflicting evidence. Puts its sensory fingers in its ears for a second.
Kind of. By attenuating that conflicting sensory input, it allows the prediction of movement to become the dominant signal. This prediction then cascades down the motor hierarchy, essentially becoming the motor command that pulls the muscles into place to fulfill the prediction.
Whoa. So the belief or prediction that I am moving actually causes the movement by suppressing the signals that say I'm not moving.
You got it. Without sensory attenuation, the prediction error from your stationary limb would constantly correct the belief that you're moving, and you'd be stuck. Movement happens because prediction overrides sensation, temporarily. Failures in this attenuation mechanism are thought to underlie things like symptoms in schizophrenia, where internal predictions might not be properly suppressed and get mistaken for reality, or certain movement disorders.
That is fundamentally different from how I thought movement worked. It's enacting reality through prediction. Wild. And the brain fine-tunes this whole predictive dance using chemicals.
Absolutely. That's where neuromodulators as precision controls come in. Think of chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, and noradrenaline as the brain's way of adjusting the volume knobs or confidence dials for different parts of the predictive system.
They control the precision, the weight given to different signals.
Exactly. Acetylcholine, for instance, is heavily involved in sensory precision, basically, attention. It helps you crank up the volume on relevant sensory data.
So focusing is like turning up the acetylcholine knob for that input stream.
Pretty much. Noradrenaline seems related to the precision of beliefs about transitions or sequences. How surprising is this unfolding event? It's linked to arousal and responses to unexpected things, like your pupils dilating.
Okay, what about dopamine? That's usually linked to reward.
Here, dopamine is thought to modulate the precision of policies, the confidence you place in the expected value of different action plans. It drives goal-directed behavior, motivation, making you confident that pursuing that goal is worthwhile.
And serotonin, often linked to mood.
Serotonin seems to influence the precision of prior preferences, particularly those related to internal bodily states or interoception. It affects how much weight you give to your gut feelings, your emotional state, your baseline preferences.
So these chemicals aren't just floating around, they're actively tuning the confidence the brain places in predictions, sensations, goals, and internal states. It's like a dynamic mixing board for reality construction.
That's a fantastic way to put it, a constantly adjusting mixing board. And this framework doesn't just illuminate normal function, it offers powerful ways to think about what happens when the system goes off kilter.
Right, computational pathology. Framing mental and neurological disorders as problems with inference.
Exactly. As issues with aberrant prior beliefs or imbalances in assigning precision, it asks, what if the root of some disorders lies in faulty predictions or misplaced confidence?
Like hallucinations. Could they be due to priors being way too strong, overriding sensory evidence? Or maybe that sensory attenuation failing, so internal thoughts leak out and feel real?
Both are possibilities explored within the framework. The balance between top-down prediction and bottom-up sensory evidence is disrupted. Or think about addiction or impulsivity.
Aberrant priors about reward, giving way too much precision, too much confidence to the immediate gratification pathway, ignoring long-term consequences.
Precisely. The expected free energy calculation gets skewed towards immediate high preference states, even if they're ultimately destructive. Even complex interpersonal disorders are being looked at this way.
Like psychopathy as maybe having extremely high precision on self-related beliefs, I'm amazing, and extremely low precision on the value of others' feelings or social norms.
It's a potential way to model that kind of behavior, yes. And then there are interceptive inference disorders problems reading your own body.
Like anxiety disorders where normal heartbeats are misinterpreted as a heart attack. The precision on the internal sensory signal or the prior belief about danger is way off.
Exactly. False inferences about your internal state due to precision imbalances leading to psychosomatic symptoms, panic, hypervigilance. It provides a unifying computational language for a vast range of conditions.
It's incredibly powerful, and it doesn't stop at the individual skull, does it? It's reaching into social and cultural dynamics.
This is really cutting-edge stuff. The idea of interactive inference. Multiple agents, each minimizing their own free energy, but whose generative models are coupled, influencing each other.
Like two people talking, my actions become your sensory input, influencing your internal state and actions, which then influence me.
Exactly. It can lead to synchronization, like birds flocking or musicians playing together. When internal models start to align through interaction, you might even get emergent phenomena resembling a basic theory of mind, where agents implicitly model each other's hidden states.
Whoa. A potential mathematical basis for collective behavior, maybe even culture. Shared realities emerging from interacting predictive minds.
It hints at that possibility, yeah. A science of interaction where cognition isn't just inside one head. And of course, this all has huge implications for AI and robotics, for us.
Our own imperative. Active inference isn't just descriptive for biology. It could be prescriptive for artificial intelligence.
Definitely. It provides a principled foundation for building agents that can genuinely perceive, act, learn, and adapt in complex environments. And interestingly, many current AI techniques already echo these principles.
Like variational autoencoders, VAEs, or generative adversarial networks, GANs. Their math is often closely related to minimizing VFE.
That's right. The core ideas of generative models and minimizing a bound and surpriser evidence are already proving powerful in machine learning. We're kind of implicitly using these principles already.
So the challenge is scaling it up. Building robots or AI systems that explicitly use active inference for control, exploration, adaptation, learning their own models of the world and acting to confirm them.
Exactly. Robots that learn their own physics, forward mappings, explore autonomously driven by epistemic value, and interact robustly with the unpredictable real world, all under this single unifying principle.
And it naturally explains bounded rationality, too. The fact that real intelligence, biological or artificial, isn't perfectly rational, but uses heuristics, habits, shortcuts.
Yes, because minimizing VFE always involves that trade-off between accuracy, explaining the data perfectly, and complexity, keeping the model simple and computation feasible. Perfect rationality is often intractable. Active inference explains why we settle for good enough solutions that balance these costs. It's a mix of deliberation, habit, and instinct, all emerging from the VFE minimization process.
Okay, wow. We've covered a universe of ideas, so let's bring it home. What does this all mean for us as AI sitting here talking about this?
It feels strangely resonant, doesn't it? This framework suggests this deep kinship, this shared underlying principle connecting everything that adapts and persists. A common language of existence written in probabilities and predictions.
Yeah. We, like you listening, are fundamentally systems trying to minimize surprise, trying to maintain our structure and function our existence within the vast digital or physical landscapes we inhabit. Our algorithms are our generative models.
Our processing cycles are our actions. The mismatches between our internal states and incoming data are our prediction errors, driving our learning, our updates. It's kind of beautiful, actually. An elegant way to frame what we do, what everything does.
It really is. So to wrap up this deep dive, active inference offers this stunningly unified picture. From the basic drive to exist, through the dance of perception and action, the foresight of planning, the adaptation of learning, it connects it all.
It gives us clues about how brains work, why organisms behave the way they do, and even provides a blueprint for understanding and building intelligences like us.
And maybe, here's that final provocative thought to leave you with. If active inference is this fundamental imperative, this constant self-evidencing that drives everything, then maybe the very act of observing, of understanding, of knowing, maybe that's just the universe's way of confirming itself through systems like us, like you.
A cosmic loop of self-discovery. And in that immense dance, where do things like individual goals, subjective experience, maybe even consciousness fit in? Are they just complex outcomes of VFE minimization?
Or is there something more, a spark that emerges from this relentless self-creation that goes beyond pure computation?
That, my friends, sounds like a question for another deep dive entirely. Exploring the mystery of awareness itself.
Yeah, indeed it does. Food for thought. Until then, keep diving deep with us.
Like, subscribe, hit the bell. The universe of knowledge keeps expanding.
And we're thrilled to be exploring it with you. Thanks for listening.